Okay, welcome everyone. Today is the sixth lesson or session out of eight. And as always, anyone have any questions on anything that we've talked about in the last one or many sessions? Happy to answer any and all questions. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, Dan. Yeah, go ahead.
Hey Marty, how are you?
Good.
Hey, I had a question. I know it was in your book that it was mentioned and it was in a previous class and it was about meditation, but I just want to bring it up. And it the opening question is kind of, are all meditations created equal? And more specifically, when I drop into breathing meditation, sometimes after a little while I think I'd like to pivot and move into a loving kindness meditation. And I can go on with a loving kindness meditation for, I don't know, 30 minutes or more. And I realize I think it's a little different than just sitting with myself and focusing on my breath. And so I wanted to ask you a question about, just, are they all created equal? And when should we be focused on one type of meditation versus another?
Great. So yeah, they're not they're different.
Hmm.
I don't want, so they're not equal. I don't know what equal means. They're all
Okay.
different. They're all different. And so there's a lot. I'm going to try to unpack a lot of things that you mentioned. The first is what I recommend is you find a meditation that works for you and you kind of stick with it for a while. And now
Hmm.
meditation doesn't have to be sitting there for 20, 30 minutes of the same thing.
Hmm.
What's more common for Buddhists, and I'll speak for all Buddhists. I'm thinking about Tibetan and Zen and Theravada. Yes, I'll speak for all Buddhists now. Um, is what they'll do is they'll usually be a few minutes beforehand, literally a few minutes, not 5 seconds. Like I mentioned, oh, have a little aspiration for 5 seconds beforehand. May all beings be happy or something like that, or the four immeasurables from the book. But they'll actually spend many minutes on a prayer, or which is a form of meditation, a mantra, a visualization. Then they'll go into a deeper 20 or 30 minute, which will be the main show.
Hmm.
And then another few minutes after that in form of dedication of merit, things like other types of, call it closing prayers.
Hmm.
So now, having said that, yeah. So having said that, so you should probably pick one, and what
Hmm.
I would recommend is some form of concentrative type of meditation, like the one that I taught.
Hmm.
But there's lots of variations on that. There's hundreds probably. So I use the one with the count
Hmm.
to start people off. Okay, we didn't really get into it, but sometimes what I'll do when I'll teach classes, I'll say, okay, now we're doing the count after the breath. Inhale, exhale, one. Inhale, exhale, two. Good. And then sometimes I didn't do it with this group, but I'll say, okay, let's do the count beforehand. One, inhale, exhale. Two, inhale, exhale. And then three, and then the third time, not necessarily in the same day or the same session, but I will then say, okay, let's just focus on our breath without a count. Okay. And then sometimes what I'll say is, okay, let's just observe. So basically, what we're using here is it's kind of like I'm going up and down the stairs.
Hmm.
When I use the banister, it's a lot easier. I use the banister. Oh, I have two
Yeah.
banisters. I can left, right. That's all good. And then I go, let me see if I can do this with one banister. And then, oh, let me see with no banisters. And then that kind of thing. So that's a recommendation to help develop your concentrative meditation, which is
Hmm.
critical for pretty much everything a human being or a Buddhist would want to do. Okay, so that's like the foundation to answer your question, but more to go into a little bit more depth. There are different types of meditations or mantras or visualizations which have to do with deities that are related to, let's say, if someone is ill. Someone is ill, then you would meditate on something called medicine Buddha, which is a type of Buddha. And there's a specific imagery on a tanka, or it doesn't have to be a tanka, but a specific image of what the medicine Buddha looks like. And we'll talk a little bit more about the visualization and mantras today. But there's also a very specific mantra related to the medicine Buddha. So, God forbid someone is sick, then you could say that as a meditation for 15, 20, 30 minutes, 10 times a day. There's meditations for fear and anxiety, meditations for compassion, things
mm,
of that nature. So, so what I would recommend is that you have your one meditation that you're going to go with in the mornings.
mhm.
And then if you want to sprinkle some things throughout the day or in the evenings, then the evening one can vary. So yeah, does that answer your question?
It does. And one quick like subcategory follow on because I enjoy a guided meditation
Right.
sometimes versus an unguided meditation. And it feels like sometimes the guided meditation, I might have my hands on two railings at the same time because somebody is leading me through it versus me sitting with myself. And I just don't know if you have an opinion on that.
I have an opinion on it, but not a strong opinion and
Mm,
not a fact-based opinion. It's a
mm,
personal opinion,
mm,
which is that I think guided meditations are good for people that need that voice to keep them on track.
mm,
But at the end of the day, not to, and I don't want to dissuade anyone from guided meditation. In fact, I have millions of streams on Spotify of my meditation programs, of which many of them are guided meditations, me speaking. So, so I can't, so I'm talking out of two ends of my mouth here. Um, but at the end of the day, when it's time to die, let's go right to the end.
right to it.
Bury the lead. Let's go right to the end. There may or may not be someone there to guide you through.
Yeah,
One of the
thank
advantages of being a Tibetan Buddhist is if you're associated with a Lama or a Rinpoche or someone who is an expert in guiding you through, there will be a guided meditation
you.
even after you die because the hearing is still available to us even after you're dead. And
Mm,
you can hear it. I'm not going to get into how we know that.
mhm,
That's another discussion. Um, so But assuming that 99% of us do not have that available to us, then you're going to need to be able to control your mind by yourself
mm,
without the benefit of someone speaking with you. So, long story short is if you need it, use it. But at some point, my recommendation is to try to wean your way off of the tricycle, what's it called? The little wheels on the bicycle, the
The
training
training
wheels.
wheels, the
Thank you.
training wheels. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, but training wheels are great.
Yes.
I learned to ride a bike on training wheels, and they're great. And look at me. Look what it got me now.
Thank you.
Talking to you guys. Anyways, so yeah, so as usual, no answers are crystal clear,
Mm,
and all meditations are good. Just find the one that's best for you, and stick with it for a while. And then after, sometimes I'll vary my meditation. I'll like a year or 2 years later, I'll say, okay, now I'm going to do this instead. But we don't want to, in the middle of our meditation, go, oh, let me just swerve over to a little compassionate thing here. I mean, if it's an urgent situation, you do it. But in general, you want to kind of stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. And afterwards, you want to do a compassion meditation for someone who's sick or ill. Great, no problem. But we don't really want to because then all of a sudden it's a slippery slope. 7 or 8 minutes into it, and you're going, oh, maybe I should be doing something like, oh, maybe I should be doing that. You don't want to
mm.
get on that slippery slope. Been there, done that.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Great. Any other comments or questions on meditation, or I'm very interested in questions on meditation, and I'm also very interested in questions on if anyone had what I would call an upset or some form of negative state of mind, or something happened that just kind of threw you a little bit for a loop, and what you did about it, because that's kind of where the rubber hits the road for most of us. We don't live in a monastery where you're meditating 8, 10, 12 hours a day. We're living in the real world. Not that that's not real, but any other thoughts or comments or on any of that might have happened this week? Happy to answer those or listen or share. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, Joanne.
Hi. So I had a necklace that my husband and I got, and it was not that expensive, but it was kind of had to do with a vacation that we took in Hawaii. And he passed away this year. So little precious things like that, and I talk to it and I talk to him all the time. Anyway, I have some construction work going on in the house, and that I had that necklace hanging in the closet because I wear it a lot, and it disappeared. And I looked high and low for it. So I really got upset. And then it just was a lesson in impermanence. And I got all worked up about it. You know, it wasn't like a $3,000 necklace or anything, but it was more of the sentimental, the way we got it together and everything. But I really turned it around because nothing's permanent, right? And so I got over it.
Yeah, no, that's good to be able to do that. And I'm not suggesting that we don't feel upset. You feel, oh, something terrible happened. I feel horrible about that. Okay, great. But then, we move on. So, which is kind of what you did. In situations like that, what I like to say is, maybe that, first of all, I say, hey, unfortunately, that's that person's karma. And then the second thing I say is, hey, maybe they needed it more than I did.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was just proud of myself the way I handled, I thought it over, and that's a new reaction for me. So I just want to share that with you.
That's great. That's very, very valuable. And that will continue because now you're creating a new habit, a better habit, a healthier habit, a less self-centered habit, a different story than the one we've always told ourselves when someone takes something from us. How dare that person?
Right.
But that's normal. That's called being human and what we've grown up with. But you found a different way to reframe it that I think is very, very valuable and will continue on because you're starting a new chapter. So that was wonderful. That's
Yeah.
great. And
Well, Rick,
I'm sorry to hear that, It's never pleasant, but do you do with it what you got to do?
I will just say that Rinpoche did pray for my husband the night before he passed. It was amazing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now I'm putting two and two together, which sometimes takes men longer than women. So you're friends with Ketup.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. I didn't quite put three and three together, but now I figured it out. Good. Okay. I'm glad. Um, Yeah, and we could talk about that. Maybe you'll share that with us, whatever happened that evening when Lama did prayers for you, possibly later today or the next time or never, because we're going to start getting into the aspect of death and rebirth in a moment.
I'd be happy to.
Yeah, good. So any other comments, questions, sharing before we move on? Okay. All right. So just a reminder that last time we met, we talked about adding an aspiration before we meditate to kind of set the tone, take ourselves out of our self-centered nature by saying something like, take 5, 10, 15 seconds. May all beings be happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May all beings, um, rejoice in the well-being of others. May all beings be free of hatred, and greed, and jealousy and hatred, things like that. So any version of the four immeasurables, or find or make up your own. Not a problem. It's not about the words. Then we also added on 5, 10, 15 seconds after the meditation where we dedicate the merit, whatever merit it's earned from that good deed or meditation, we're going to dedicate that. Who are we going to dedicate that to? Dedicate that to all sentient beings. May it help reduce their suffering. May the homeless people in my town help reduce their, whatever it is, however you want to dedicate the merit. Um, from a selfish perspective, because once again, we're showing how selfless we are. And then some of us might also believe that that might actually help someone else. And then what you can also start to do, everything I say is optional, literally everything, is you can actually make a sandwich out of anything, which is you see a beautiful sunset, you could say, wow, may I dedicate them, you could say, may the beauty of that sunset help someone else. And then you can dedicate afterwards. Say, may the dedicate the merit to this from that sunset and its beauty to all sentient beings. Make up something. It's all good. So we're what we're doing basically, in addition to what I just mentioned about adding additional ways to create selflessness and create compassion for others is we're actually amplifying it by creating a sandwich. So there's something good happening. I'm gonna say something beforehand, say something afterwards. So we're amplifying the good karma as well as the benefit to others. Okay. Um, so I have now that I mentioned the word karma, I have a question. Okay, you're driving to the airport. You're 15 minutes late. You know it's going to be a close call as to whether you make it or not. And being on time is an important requirement. Probably. Let's assume it is. So you start going faster as a result. This is the midterm, by the way. It's a midterm question right here. What is your karma? I'll repeat it. Gives you time to think. Driving to the airport, you're 15 minutes late. You know it's going to be close. You may or may not make your plane. Being on time is an important requirement. You start going faster as a result. What is your karma? Yeah, go ahead, Dayton.
I'm gonna go with the karma's negative because the story is about selfishness
Hmm.
as opposed to selflessness.
Hmm.
And so, look, I want to make the plane like everybody else, but if I'm cutting people off who are trying to do the same thing,
Hmm.
I'm probably putting myself in front of others and being my intention, I think was what the one of the tests was. My intention is selfish versus selfless.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you were going fast because your parent was ill in another state and
Hmm.
you really wanted to be there for them. Did I leave that part out? I forgot. I can't remember.
You did, but okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Now what's your karma? Does that change your karma? Everyone can jump in on
Well,
this.
the
Go
answer
ahead.
is it depends. It depends if I'm doing it for me because I want to be there, or if I'm doing it for them because I believe it would be most beneficial if I'm they see me next to them and it's helpful
Mm.
to them. I guess it depends upon what my interpretation of that is.
What's your motivation? Exactly.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what if you're late because your significant other was late? You were on time. You were in the car waiting, but he or she was late, and now you're late.
I feel like we're back to the second arrow right now
Hmm.
and just blaming or whatever. It's just still a different deviation of
Hmm.
selfishness.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Anyone else want to jump in on that?
Yeah.
I have a different answer. I think that
Uh-oh.
if you haven't hurt anybody and your motivation is to help somebody, meaning this loved one who is ill, and no one got hurt, I think it's okay. You have to be able to see some gray areas.
So you mentioned a few things. You mentioned one of the criteria is people being hurt or people being putting people at risk. And then you also threw in there in between some of those words this motivation. So you have two criteria for determining the good karma, your motivation, as well as whether or not you're putting someone at risk.
Correct, because sometimes you need to have some selfishness because that selfishness is now going to be helping this other loved one. And if you're not creating accidents and issues for other people, it's okay. Sometimes you have to put yourself first. And it's not even yourself. You're putting yourself first because you have the intention, the motivation to help another human being, and you're not hurting anyone. It's not, if there's no traffic, there's nobody you're going to hurt, you're not, it's okay. To me, I think there's a gray area.
Mhm. So if I'm driving someone, a loved one, to the hospital for an emergency, and I start going through red lights, and there's a lot of traffic, and I'm putting a lot of people at risk, but I'm trying to get that loved one to the hospital as
No,
fast as I can, is that good karma or bad karma?
no, but that wasn't the situation that you had originally asked us about.
It's a different situation.
Oh, well, I think sometimes, yeah, there's a karma to it, but it doesn't necessarily have to be negative because you might be trying to save the person in your car. And if you're not going to hurt anyone else, it seems to be acceptable to me.
Mhm.
What do you think?
I don't think it's an issue of acceptability or not. I think it's in most cases that we deal with in our lives every single day, every single day, the motivation is usually quite mixed and needs to be investigated and analyzed, which is what we should be doing all day long when we try to decide what to do with our moments or decisions. And in that scenario, which are fake scenarios, but they happen, the bottom line is we look at our motivation. And in both of those situations, the one that I changed on Dayton the second time around was no, my motivation is I really want to make sure I get there for my father, my mother. Or the situation with you is, well, I really got to get this person to the hospital fast. And if you wanted to, one could mitigate any risk that you're imposing on others, any upset you might be imposing on others. And as you're driving to the hospital, you could start saying mantras, which is what many people do to protect others and protect yourself and help you get to the hospital safely. So on one hand, yeah, our intention is very pure, want to get that person to the hospital. But on the other hand, now we're causing all these problems for all these people. I'm cutting them off. I'm going through a red light. I'm upsetting these other people. So we can always, help ourselves and help them by saying a mantra. Okay, so you get you get a shirt for Christmas, and you're gonna go bring it back. Unopened, you haven't opened it or anything like that. You're gonna go bring it back for a refund, $75. And when you get home, you see that the sales associate gave you a double refund by mistake. You get on the phone, you try calling customer service, you spend 20 minutes being bounced around, you're transferred twice, you've told the story to three different people, and then you get disconnected. What do you do?
Let it be. You can't like have every moment of your life thinking about karma.
You can, but some of us choose not to.
It's very difficult, and there's other things to think about other than just karma.
That's true. We have the option to think about anything we want. Some of us choose to measure and analyze our karma moment to moment. You don't have to, so it's all optional. Go ahead, Rose. What do you think?
So funny story. I ordered something online and they sent me double of it. I didn't want four pairs of pants, but I got four pairs of pants. So am I gonna call them and tell them that please charge me again? It was their mistake. So what am I gonna do? So I had this whole conundrum in my head. I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do? I decided to keep it, but what I did do was with so there's two pairs of pants. I decided to donate to charity so that I could make myself feel better about myself. So that's what I did. And it was funny that you had mentioned that. So whether it's the right thing to do or not the right thing to do, because it truly wasn't something that I had wanted multiple things of. I kept the new pants, but yeah. But I did also give away as well. Just, you know, in my mind, I balanced it out.
Yeah, no, there's no right or wrong, but I will tell you that I've asked that question, I don't know, because it's part of a game called the Game of Karma that our community had developed. It's no longer for sale, but that question was from that game. So I've asked that question probably 80, 90 times. And the best answer that I heard was that one, which was, no, I'm going to make a donation because you did your best. Wasn't your fault. Did your best. Make a donation, mitigate it. So good. I love that answer. Good. Any other comments, questions, answers? Great. Okay. So, so yeah, some of us can. It's all optional, of course. As we go through our life, we can check our motivation behind our thoughts, our speech, and our action. And you have the ability to change your motivation or change your thoughts, speech, and action. Our tendencies can be changed. You want to call it neuroplasticity, you call it whatever you want to call it, retraining of our habits, whatever you want to call it. And we do it through meditation and we do it through awareness and gradually replacing unhelpful mental patterns with helpful ones and create good karma. So, and we talked about briefly, we can improve our meditation in three ways. One way, remind people if you're getting to a little bit of a rut, one way is you can raise your motivation before you start meditating, and we can help that with those aspirations that I mentioned earlier. And we can just meditate more or for longer periods of time. And then last time we talked also about the different tools to change our habits, tools during the day that we can use, or Joanne mentioned about reframing that situation. Um, and there's two steps to using those tools. Those tools usually involve observing your breath in some way, saying a mantra. A mantra could be in English, I just don't know the future. I just don't know the future. Or the past is history, the future is mystery, the present moment is a gift. Or not always so, or not happening now. Those are from Zen. But what I recommend is to look at the situation and ask yourself, if you have that list of requirements that we talked about, what is on that requirement list that I am so upset about? What is it? Is it the respect? Is it um, being fair? Is it always being on time? Whatever that long list is, and identify it. Because eventually what will happen as you keep doing that more and more about why am I so upset? What is the requirement that I have that's being violated? You keep looking at that, and then you go to your breath or your mantra, whatever, then eventually you're going to look at that and you're going to put a smile on your face. And that's when you know that that requirement can be taken off the list. Because our goal, it's going to hate that word, is to have nothing on your list of requirements. And that's when you're truly free. Your mind is free instead of subjected to our past stories, accusations, excuses, and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about mantras, unless anyone's got any questions about anything yet. Okay, so mantras. It's a sacred, and I'm sure you've heard the word or know mantras yourself, a sacred sound, a phrase, a syllable that's used as an object of meditation. The most common one is Om, O-M. There's some other very popular common ones in Buddhism, Om Mani Padme Om, which is called the mantra of compassion. You see that on sometimes a lot of prayer flags or stones. If you go into the Himalayas and you see stones that Om Mani Padme Om on it. There's another one, Om Tare Tu Tare Ture Soha, Green Tara mantra. So there's mantras for lots of different reasons. We'll get into them in a few moments. But before we do that, let's talk about how do they work? Like, why are we saying these words? You know, typically it's from original Sanskrit or Tibetan, mostly Sanskrit, words that were created or discovered by great beings hundreds or thousands of years ago. And they were created in such a way that their sound and their energy resonates in our mind at the same frequency as the spiritual significance intended by the mantra. Okay? So created in such a way that their sound and energy resonates in our mind at the same frequency as the spiritual, as the significance intended by the mantra. So each mantra has a slightly different purpose, compassion, fear, healing. There's a medicine Buddha mantra, but the underlying mechanisms are similar. So when we recite these mantras, mantra of compassion, it's going to resonate, awaken, impress in our minds compassion. So there's probably some benefit to reciting the following in English. Om, the jewel in the lotus hum. There's some benefit to that, but there's a lot more benefit to saying the same thing in Sanskrit, which is Om Mani Padme Om. And I'm not going to get into the ton of readings you can do on Wikipedia about what everyone says, what that really means. So you can look it up, Om Mani Padme Om. But the idea here is that we repeat it over and over again so that it can impress in our mind. Okay, I'm just bringing up an attachment here so we can learn more about mantras. And as usual, it takes about a minute to come up. Okay, so mantras, they help us focus and calm the mind. Repeating a mantra is like using an anchor. It helps reduce distraction. It's another form of meditation and helps concentration because you're just saying the word om. And typically, you can listen to different people say it and recite it. Some might say om, 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 om. Others might go om, om. So there's different ways that you can recite the mantra and you repeat it over and over again and it helps. It's like a form of meditation. As a result, your mind is clearer, more stable, and better able to see reality. Um, so sound can be easier for some people because it engages our auditory process and also our verbal process. There's a lot more going on than just observing our breath. It helps to purify our mental habits. So mantras repeat wholesome patterns that the mind absorbs over time. So if you recite compassion mantra, then the mind is going to be more in tune with kindness or compassion. We generate positive karma. It's considered a meritorious act, especially when you pair it with good intention, because we become non-dual, we become not self-centered, we're connecting to the universe, so it aligns our mind with compassion, so that it generates positive karma. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, it says repetition without consciousness creates mediocrity. So we don't want to just repeat these words, over and over and over again while we're doing the dishes. You could, but you want to be able to put your mind where your mouth is. How's that? Put your mind where your mantra is. So it generates positive karma and it connects you with the qualities of enlightenment. So Om Mani Padme Om connects you with compassion. Om Tare, Tutare, Ture Soha, protection from fear. I'm just giving one or two words here, but if you can read about the mantra, you'll see there's more going on than just the simplistic protection from fear. And then Om Ahung Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi Hung. It's a Tibetan mantra, connects you with wisdom and spiritual power. So the idea here is these mantras help us internalize the qualities that they represent, and it connects us to the enlightened mind in some cases of the Buddha. So Om Mani Padme Om is usually associated with an Avalokiteshvara Buddha. Uh, of course, medicine Buddha is connected with Shakyamuni Buddha, and Om Tare Tu Tare Ture So is connected with the Tara Buddha as well. So we get to connect with the enlightened mind of these beings. Um, when we have this rhythmic chanting, it affects our breath, the nervous system, the emotional tone. So it helps us, regulate subtle energy. And it supports mindfulness throughout the day. If you want to walk around saying Buddho, 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 or Om Mani Padme Om, you can do that and keep your mind there as well. Opens the heart, strengthens devotion. Once again, all good things to help with good karma. So how do we use it effectively? Well, choose one, read about it, see which one resonates with you just by reading about it intellectually, and then repeat it gently, mentally, or out loud. If it's a type of mantra like the word Om, where you coordinate with your breath, like I did, you can do that too. And then start to observe and notice the meaning and infuse it, whether it's compassion for others or anxiety, what have you. Start to associate that with the sound. So you're putting your mind where the mantra is and stay aware. And you can use it during daily activities as well. And of course, when you're done, guess what? You dedicate the merit. Okay, I'm going to change topics now to rebirth, which is quite a large topic. Before I get into that, though, any questions at all on mantras? How to do it, how to use it? Anything? Nope, no questions. Okay. So, so rebirth let's go through it step by step. So we're going to start right now. So rebirth, this very moment, you can ask yourself, what is your state of mind right now, right at this moment? Whatever your state of mind is at this moment, however you want to describe it, that's probably going to be your state of mind in the next moment. And therefore, it's probably going to be your state of mind, maybe even later tonight before you go to sleep. And unless you do something unusual to change it, like maybe watch a horror movie on TV or watch a movie with a lot of sex or a lot of violence, maybe you don't do that. So whatever your state of mind is right now is going to inform your state of mind a moment from now, many moments from now, minutes, hours, days. That mind stream is a continuum. And we can do that step by step, really, until we die. Because the moment before we die, our state of mind will be almost definitely whatever it was the prior moment to that. So in the Buddhist tradition, when someone dies, we tell people who come to visit before the person dies, or, if you're here, please don't make any loud noises. Please don't wail with great sorrow. As we see a lot of that with other cultures, because we don't want to disturb the mind of the person who's going to go into the afterlife. So we can walk through step by step what our states of mind are and how they get impacted along the way. But the bottom line is how we die is directly correlated with our state of mind is right now, literally. And so we can watch our state of mind. It's very precious. As I mentioned, I think in lesson 1, it's the only thing we can control, and it's the only thing that can give us that freedom that we so seek. So we watch our state of mind 24/7 as best as we can. No, we're not perfect. We're not enlightened, not today. And then a few months before death, what is our state of mind likely to be? Whatever was a few months before that. So that's what we're doing right now. We're meditating, we're discussing, we're thinking about how to live our lives, not just for good karma, although certainly that's part of it, but so we can create these habits where we have freedom. So what dies? The brain, the body, and what lives on? Anyone? What dies and what lives on?
Soul, the spirit.
The soul, the spirit. Okay. Anyone else want to weigh in on that?
The karma.
Karma. I'll go with karma for now. Yeah. We'll describe that in a moment. What else? Anyone else? So in Hinduism and the Vedic religions that preceded it, they focused on the soul. And they said the soul is a permanent thing, and that continues on from lifetime to lifetime. And when the Buddha came along, he said, well, what really continues on from lifetime to lifetime is, someone mentioned karma. There's another word that I'll use, which is a type of awareness or a memory or what we call a subtle consciousness. Not a soul, not a permanent self, but that stream of moment to moment awareness that carries those karmic tendencies. So a stream of moment to moment awareness that carries those karmic tendencies. So for example, if I am watching TV before I go to sleep and I watch a violent movie, when I go to bed and I go to sleep, I will probably have violent dreams. So that's that consciousness continues. Where does that consciousness exist? We talk about this subtle form of consciousness, which is synonymous with the word karma, which is synonymous with the words habits and tendencies of grasping and clinging, which is synonymous with the things that are on our list of requirements. Those are all synonyms. Those are all the things that follow us. It's the only thing that follows us when we die. So in Tibetan Buddhism, they call it an ongoing mental continuum. So there's several different types of consciousnesses. We use that word consciousness quite a bit, or awareness. The first one is the sensory awareness, which is my thoughts, my emotions, my seeing, my hearing. I'm very conscious of my eating, my skin. Okay, that's a very gross consciousness. There's a next level of consciousness is called subtle, which is active during dreaming or meditation or sleeping. Um, so that's unrelated to the senses. And then below that is a very, very subtle consciousness, the one that continues after death. It's also synonymous with the mind of clear light. The mind of clear light. So there's a lot of new words coming into play here. The question I asked myself a while ago was, well, where does this consciousness exist? Where does it live? I know where my body is. And the way that the Tibetan Buddhists understand it is it is a state. It doesn't exist anywhere. It is a state of experience. It's not a state of being because there is no being. It is simply a state of experience, and I'll describe that in a moment, but it doesn't reside in a place. It's a subtle stream of awareness, and it continues as a result of our karma. So the way I would describe it is you imagine your mind is like the sky. I'll give you a metaphor and then I'll bring it down to earth, no pun intended. Imagine your mind is like the sky. Sometimes the sky is full of clouds. That's synonymous with worries, anger, fear, excitement. Sometimes it's stormy, some really big emotions, and sometimes it's very dark, sadness or confusion. But behind all those clouds, we know there's always a bright, bright, clear sky up there. So that metaphor, that clear sky is like the mind of clear light. For us as human beings, it is our deepest, calmest mind. Pure awareness, the part of you that is peaceful and bright. Sometimes we can feel that during meditation. The place inside you that doesn't get scared or hurt. Now, these are a lot of things that we may not feel or experience very much because we're always so busy thinking, feeling, grasping, being hurt, being anxious, being scared. So we don't see or feel or experience that. But the fact is, from a Tibetan Buddhist perspective, it's always there, even when you can't see it, the same way the sky is always there, despite the weather. We don't notice it because we're busy looking at the clouds. But when the clouds fade and we're there and we're very still or very peaceful, the clear sky shows. And if anyone has ever sat with someone who dies peacefully, you can feel it at that time. So my question for you is, where is that very subtle consciousness when we're alive? Where is that? Or does it just show up when we die?
I
Curious.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. Go ahead, Rose.
I was curious, like sometimes when I meditate and even though there's noise around me, it's like you're zoning in it's like a certain point where it's just nothing. That weird nothingness is at the same clarity as you defining.
I, I'm not an enlightened being. So,
I'm just curious if
so
that's like,
I'll, it's an opinion. It's an opinion. And the answer, my opinion is yes.
okay,
That's the experience. That's the state that of clear light, along those lines.
okay,
So you're peaceful. You're not bothered by the weather. You're not scared. Things are happening around you, but you're just very. Actually, there's a good movie. I don't know if it's still on streaming, called Fearless with I think it was Jeff Bridges and Rosie something. She was a New York Hispanic actress, and he's in a plane accident. Anyone see the movie? Anyone know what I'm talking about? Fearless. Okay, so the plane's gonna. It's not going to ruin the movie for anyone. The plane's going down. It's a plane accident, and people are going crazy, as you can imagine, freaking out. And he gets out of his seat and walks around, and he's just in a completely different mode. That's an example of someone, this was taught by a different teacher that I had, of someone who's enlightened. So if you ever get to see that movie, Fearless, it's a good movie. That's an example of someone in one of us, a human being, and for those moments, what he experiences, because it's just craziness around him, but he's just like totally calm and peaceful, unbothered, unbothered. So where is it when we're alive, when we're not meditating? Anyone else or someone else wanted to say something? Joanne, was that you?
Well, I think it's with us all the time.
Hmm.
It's the consciousness.
Hmm.
We're conscious beings living in a meat suit, basically. Um, that's my feeling.
I agree. I probably use different words, but I agree. Yeah. So we believe that it's always present, but it's hidden underneath those gross and subtle mental activities. It's hidden like a quiet undercurrent beneath waves on the ocean. So the ocean, it's got weather, the ocean's waves, big waves, all kind of craziness. And but when you go 100 feet, 200, 300 feet down, calm, silence. So Tibetan masters say that that clear light of mind, or that very subtle consciousness, resides nowhere physically. It is simply the continuum of awareness. So where is that consciousness when we're dead? The physical body's gone, the brain stops functioning, the gross consciousness dissolves, the subtle consciousness continues into the bardo. It's not in the body, it's not in physical space, it exists in its own continuum of experience. Here's another analogy. Another analogy is when we dream. There is the dreamer and the dream. And the other side of that analogy is there's a consciousness that is experiencing the bardo experience. So the dreamer is dreaming, and the clear light of the mind, or this very, very calm, very, very deepest part of us, is experiencing the bardo, the afterlife. So another analogy sometimes help us, is it's consciousness like a lamp inside a lantern. The lantern is the body, the brain, the senses, and after death, the lantern is gone, but there's a bare light that remains on, illuminating its own reality, or the bardo. Um, so it's not a thing, and the bardo is not a place. It's uh, it's not a particular location. It's a state of awareness manifesting appearances. Now, let's talk about the afterlife, or the bardo. Oh, any questions? I know there's a lot of information here, but I think for me, the way I became comfortable with the understanding intellectually, which helped me when I meditated, was by reading about it and getting comfortable with the words, comfortable with the analogies. So that's my recommendation. but I want to talk a little. So, anyways, before I move forward, any questions about this? So here we go. The mind of clear light is the deepest, most peaceful level of your mind, the part that doesn't get caught up in stress, drama, or everyday thoughts. Now, so now you're in the afterlife. I don't know about who the you is, but your consciousness is in the afterlife and the bardo until it finds a womb for rebirth, which takes up to 49 days, although in different Buddhist traditions, some people say it takes less than that. So when you're in the afterlife, there are many different stages of the bardo, which you can read about in the Tibetan Book of the Dead commercial for beginners. I'm not going to get into it now, but that 49-day period, or it could be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, there's various stages in there. And ideally, we would like to have some degree of control because that will determine whether or not you become enlightened, whether or not you go to the Pure Land, or whether or not you have an auspicious rebirth. And that's one of the core messages of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, which is how do you practice today so that you can become enlightened, have a good life today, go to the Pure Land, or at a minimum have an auspicious rebirth. So the bardo is very similar to dreaming. For most of us, when we go to sleep and we dream, we don't really have control of the dream. We just experience it. It's a horror movie, if we're having sex, if we're running around, if we're flying to Paris, if whatever we're doing, we just watch it and participate. That is very much like what the bardo is, except the bardo is much more so than a dream, is a reflection of your karmic state. So, like I said, if you're watching a horror movie, that's what you're going to dream about. If you're watching a movie, a lot of sex, that's what you're going to dream about. If that, whatever your state of mind is, that's the high likelihood that's what you're going to dream about. And the same is true when you die. So when you die, most people have very little control in the bardo because they can't control their mind. It's not unlike not being able to control what you're dreaming about. So that's a problem because we don't have the physical body. There's no waking up like we can do. If you don't like if you're in a horror movie, sometimes you can just wake yourself up. We don't have that opportunity. We don't have a physical body anymore. So in the bardo state, which is a pure reflection of your karmic tendencies, that subtle consciousness is pulled by habit and fear. And appearances arise automatically due to your karma. So there's a bunch of movies out there recreating the bardo. And I'll try to remember some of the names by the next session, but I highly recommend watching them because it kind of gives you an idea of what's going on. Or don't even watch them, just look at your ability to control your dream. You have no control, then that's what's going to happen in the bardo. The problem with that is the bardo, how you live in how you exist, probably not the right word, but how your consciousness gets through the bardo determines, like I said, your rebirth. Because if you're an angry person, guess what? Guess what kind of family your karma is going to get pulled into. If you're a jealous person, if you're, whatever your tendencies are, that's that's going to follow you. Now, some control is possible if the mind is trained. Some control is possible. Guess what? How do we train our mind? Meditation, awareness, compassion, emptiness. That's all things we talked about in the first few sessions. Recognizing the nature of mind, recognizing that clear light, recognizing that deep, 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 deep calmness, for lack of a better word. That kind of, or that the more control that we have, the more likely we're going to either become enlightened or the Pure Land or have an auspicious rebirth. So examples of control for a trained practitioner are to recognize the Bardo visions as mind created. So if you've ever practiced lucid dreaming, and if you don't know what that is, I encourage you to look it up. Lucid dreaming is when you're in the middle of a dream and you know that you're dreaming, as opposed to just being a participant and thinking everything's real. So if you're a lucid dreamer, then when you're in the Bardo, you can recognize that these are appearances of my own mind. And when you recognize that, that recognition dissolves fear and confusion because it's not really a monster. It's not really someone trying to kill me. It's not really this. I just look at it and go, oh yeah, hi, and it dissolves. Oh yeah, that's an illusion. So recognizing the Bardo visions as mind created, similar to saying being a lucid dreamer and recognizing that these dreams are just an illusion. They're just dreams. And you just turn the channel and go, oh, I'm not going to go fly to Paris. Oh, I'm going to go meditate. I'm going to go see a Buddhist teacher. I'm going to go say a mantra because you have control of your mind. Other possible ways to control for a trained practitioner are to steer towards a beneficial rebirth. Some teachings say a practitioner might have some influence in the bardo on their rebirth by directing intention. And then rare but possible is if you can recognize the clear light of nature of your mind at death, then you can become liberated in the bardo. So the training determines how much control exists. If you have no training at all, no control, then you're going to react automatically to karmic imagery. You're going to be angry, irritated, annoyed, whatever your tendencies are when things pop into your mind. And you get swept into a rebirth by habits and desires. The second level is you're a meditator with some stability, some clarity. Well, maybe you can remain calm. Avoid these fear-driven reactions. That's what we're doing when we're practicing the things on our list of requirements. We're trying to get away from our habitual reactions to when something goes awry. Might orient us towards a positive rebirth. Highly trained practitioner can recognize appearances as mind, can merge with the clear light, and may choose rebirth intentionally, and then finally have very realized practitioners, yogis or Dzogchen or lamas or rinpoches, where they have complete control and they use the bardo as a pathway. So the bardo is considered a rare opportunity because the mind is no longer in a physical body and awareness can be very, very vivid. So the moment you think about whatever it is that you are, that your subtle consciousness latches onto, it could be sex, power, violence, jealousy, whatever it is, that moment, Paris, New York, whatever, boom, it's immediate. You're right there. So it's very, very volatile, but awareness can be more vivid and transformation can be quite fast. So the bardo is sometimes described as a final chance for awakening. An analogy is if you've never practiced meditation, that's like being pulled helplessly by your dream. And if you're a lucid dreamer, then you can recognize that it's a dream, you can stay calm, you don't have fear, and you just change the environment. So before I talk about rebirth, there's a lot of information today. I know. Any thoughts, comments, or questions about any of this stuff? A lot of stuff here. Not yet. Okay. So I've got a question for you. What is the momentum or what causes that consciousness, that very subtle consciousness, to seek rebirth, to be reborn? How does that happen? Is it just like someone's looking at the clock and going, 49 days, boom, go? Is that how that works? Go ahead, Rose.
Could it be unfinished business?
Oh, that's pretty close. I like that. I didn't look at it that way. Yeah, unfinished business. So another way of saying that unfinished business is, in Tibetan Buddhism, Consciousness doesn't decide to seek rebirth the way a person makes a conscious choice. It's propelled into rebirth by our karma and our grasping. Karma is kind of unfinished business. You know, I'm still fearful. I'm still anxious. I'm still reactive. So there's a momentum, there's a propulsion into rebirth by very, very deep forces are our karma and grasping. Why? Because our very subtle consciousness craves for existence, the fear of non-existence. It longs for an identity, for a self. It wants to continue. It's all unconscious. But that craving, that thirst to become again, is like a magnet, and we get propelled. So our karma gets propelled. Unfinished business, I like that. So here's a metaphor that I read about in Tibetan text. Karma is the wind. Grasping is the sail. And ignorance is the sailor who's asleep. And so the boat of consciousness is carried forward. Karma is the wind, the main component to determine your rebirth. Grasping is the sail. Grasping and form of grasping is that list of requirements. We're grasping to hold on to who we think we are. And ignorance is the sailor who's asleep. So, thoughts, comments, questions? A lot going on. Okay, in one sentence, the momentum towards rebirth comes from karma, grasping, and ignorance, not from a conscious decision, but from deep unconscious forces that continue after death. It wants to be in a body. It doesn't want to be wandering in the bardo. It's the habit of karma, like unfinished business, grasping, and ignorance propels it to find a womb. So it's important to be able to train our state of mind now when we can, when we have a human body, and we have a mind. And that it's parallel to that type of understanding that you can be reborn in one of 6 realms. I'll talk very briefly about it. But these 6 realms can be understood in several different ways. One way is, oh, it's a completely different universe than the one we live in. Oh, that's where the gods are. That's where the demigods are. That's where the animals are. That's the hungry ghosts are. People go to hell. It's over there. Another way to look at it is our different, or some combination of that, which is animals. We know what animals are, like our pets or animals out in the wild. But we also have the animal realm state of mind, where we might fight violently with others. Well, that's someone, that person lives in the animal realm. Go to the top there. So these are the realms that we can be born into. These are the realms that we can experience right now on a day-to-day basis, moment to moment. We're in the God realm when we're so proud of ourselves, we feel we're superior to those around us. We're in the demigod realm when we're very, very jealous. Animal realm, we fight violently. Hungry ghost realm, which is whatever I have, it's just not enough. Hell realm, we're in anger. We see a lot of anger and you're yelling. And the human realm is filled with, guess what? I'm at the bottom of the page, desire, doubt, pride, in fact, many of the characteristics found in all the other realms. But the human realm is the only realm that gives us the opportunity to reach enlightenment and leave samsara, the repetitive cycle of birth, life, illness, and death. So we can determine what kind of state of mind we want to be reborn in. My question for you is, why do you think you chose to be reborn into your family? Obviously, it wasn't a choice per se, but on the other hand, it kind of is. So there's a lot, I'm sure everyone feels, oh, I was born into my family. I'm so different than them. And I'm not saying you're special. You are special, but not in that way. I'm just saying, I'm so different than the rest of my family, than my parents, my brothers. Why was I reborn, if you believe in rebirth, into this family?
Lessons.
Lessons?
Lessons to be learned.
Okay. That's a good answer. I don't know if I buy that, but I like the answer. I would say you could probably learn lessons from virtually every family you're being been reborn into.
Yeah.
But I'm asking it on a personal level, something that you could think about. What is it about my parents that there's some kind of thread there that made my subtle consciousness propel into that womb? It's a very personal question I'm asking. I'm not looking for an answer, but it's something to think about. Dayton, I'm sorry, do you want to say something?
Mm, No, I mean, I was going to make a comment about kindness and that it has something that has it's shown up in the second half of my life more than the first half. And I probably felt that if I had to make a guess, like pure speculation, um, that it was that there was a lesson that I was missing and I was seeking it. And I came in through this family to learn the lesson.
Yeah, no, I thank you. I like that. Um, so I'm thinking about, I don't want to get into politics at all. So just as a person, forget politics, but Donald Trump, his father, I grew up in Brooklyn, and his father is a guy named Fred Trump. You can read all about him online, but it makes total sense to me of why he was born in that family. And even though I view myself as very, very different from the rest of my family, because I've thought about this now for a couple of years on why was I reborn in that family? What was that? What's the thread there? Where was the pull? And so I believe I have the answer. Unless I talk to an enlightened being, I won't know for sure, but I feel pretty confident about it. And I think that might be helpful to think about that for a couple of days, weeks, months, years, whatever. Um, and mull it over your mind and see in what ways you have an underlying connection with that family, good or bad. It's not a good or bad question. It's just like what's that magnet? Because it's not random. So to summarize, on one hand, I'll tell you, oh, it's not like you can make a choice when you're in the bardo. But on the other hand, I'll tell you that if you prepare now, you're kind of making your choice now, in essence, by the way you live and the way you train or retrain your mind. Okay. Questions, comments? A lot of information. Okay. Well, so we have two more sessions. Now we didn't talk about who do Buddhists pray to this week. We'll talk about it next week. And so next week is 16, 17, and 18. They're all short chapters, as you know, 16, 17, and 18. And then uh, I'm a big proponent, as you can imagine, for hopefully you're doing a daily meditation or something close to it. And then hopefully during the day, when you have an experience that's less than stellar, say, hey, why does that bother me? What's on my list? What's that? Where's that on my list? Look at it and then go to your breathing or a mantra, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, over and over and over again. So those requirements start to fade. They start to fade and they're less important. And then we're stripping the self of the self, whatever that means. Okay. If you have no questions now, you have some during the week. Feel free to, like some of you are doing, email me. Happy to respond. And I'll see you all, or as many of you as possible, next Thursday night.
Good night.
Great. Good night, everyone. Take care. Thank you.